Hey listener, ever feel like you're running on fumes even after a full night's sleep? We're diving into a topic that might just change the way you think about rest. And it's not just about clocking in 8 hours.
It's so true. You've shared Joseph Aminian's research on the 7 types of rest, and it's really fascinating. He argues that we need to address our specific needs for rest beyond just sleep.
7 types. Okay, I'm definitely intrigued, especially as someone constantly trying to learn and grow. So where do we even begin?
Well, Aminian starts with physical rest, but he goes deeper than just sleep. He's talking about giving your body what it needs to recover from any exertion. That could be stretching after a long day hunched over a book, taking short naps, or even leisurely walks. Things that might seem almost too simple, but are surprisingly powerful.
So if I'm understanding this right, it's about recognizing those moments when your body is actually working hard, even if you're just mentally engaged.
Precisely. And it's about proactively counteracting that depletion. He argues this can help you focus better, avoid getting sick, and just feel more comfortable overall. When you're constantly absorbing information, it's easy to forget your body needs attention too.
That's a good point. I'm definitely guilty of pushing through when I should be taking a break. Speaking of feeling overwhelmed, that brings us to Aminian's concept of emotional rest. I have a feeling this one will resonate with a lot of us.
Absolutely. He highlights the importance of having space to process your feelings without getting swept away by them. In today's world, it's easy to feel constantly bombarded with information and emotions, so creating that space for yourself is key.
I sometimes fight against taking that alone time, but when I do actually disconnect and let myself process things, I'm amazed by how much more creative energy I have afterward.
That's a great example of emotional rest in action. And Aminian suggests several ways to achieve it: prioritizing self-care, setting boundaries to protect your energy, and even journaling to process emotions. It's about recognizing when you need to step back from the emotional intensity of the world, especially when you're someone who's constantly engaging with complex ideas.
That makes a lot of sense. So we've covered physical and emotional rest. What's next on Aminian's list?
Well, naturally, we move on to mental rest. He emphasizes that even if you enjoy learning, your brain needs structured breaks to function at its best.
I think we've all experienced that feeling of mental exhaustion when you just can't process any more information.
Exactly. Aminian argues that instead of pushing through, stepping away from whatever is demanding, your mental energy can actually be more effective. He even suggests switching to a different type of mental activity. Say if you're reading a dense research paper, taking a break to do a Sudoku puzzle could help shift gears.
So it's like cross-training for your brain. You wouldn't run a marathon every day without giving your body a chance to recover, so why expect your mind to constantly operate at full capacity?
That's a great analogy. And these mental breaks, he argues, can actually enhance your focus and creativity in the long run. It's almost like sharpening your mental tools.
Now, this next type of rest is particularly interesting to me, especially in our digital age. Sensory rest. With all the screens and information constantly vying for our attention, this feels more relevant than ever.
Arminian's definitely ahead of the curve on this one. He points out that constant digital stimulation can be incredibly draining, even if we don't consciously realize it. And for someone like you who thrives on learning, being mindful of your sensory intake is crucial.
So what exactly does sensory rest look like? Is it as simple as putting down the phone and shutting off the screens?
It can be that simple. And believe me, those moments of quiet can be surprisingly restorative. But he also suggests things like spending time in nature, reading a physical book, or just intentionally minimizing noise and visual clutter.
So it's about creating a sense of calm and stillness for your mind to decompress, almost like hitting a reset button on your senses.
Precisely. It's about giving yourself permission to disconnect from the constant barrage of information and allow your senses to recharge. Especially for someone who's always plugged in, these pockets of sensory stillness can be transformative.
All right, we're making our way through the list. What's next?
Next up is social rest. This one might sound counterintuitive, especially since you clearly enjoy engaging with information and ideas. But Aminian's point is that it's about finding the right balance between connection and solitude.
So social rest isn't about becoming a hermit.
Not at all. He emphasizes that we need both meaningful connection and time alone to truly thrive. It's about recognizing when you need to step back from social situations, even positive ones, to recharge your energy.
I think a lot of people, myself included, can struggle with that. We feel obligated to say yes to every invitation, even when we know we need some time to ourselves.
That's very common. And that's why Aminian stresses the importance of setting those boundaries. It's about being intentional with your social energy and ensuring that your interactions leave you feeling energized rather than drained.
I love that, being intentional with your social energy. Okay, we're up to number 6 on the list, creative rest. This one feels particularly relevant for our listeners who are always seeking new knowledge and exploring new ideas.
It's a great point. Aminian argues that creative rest is all about engaging your imagination and tapping into your inner innovator. It's about allowing yourself to play and explore without pressure, which can be so rejuvenating for someone who's constantly learning and absorbing information.
So we're talking about things like painting, writing, playing music, or maybe even just brainstorming new ideas.
Exactly. Activities that spark your curiosity and allow you to express yourself freely. And Aminian highlights that this type of rest can actually be a wellspring for new ideas and fresh perspectives.
I love that. So it's not just about relaxing, it's about actively engaging with your creative side to replenish your mental energy and spark new insights.
Precisely. And those insights can then fuel your continued learning and growth.
Okay, we've arrived at the final type of rest on a Minions list,
Mhm.
spiritual rest. This one feels a bit more, well, spiritual.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Aminian describes spiritual rest as connecting with something larger than yourself, finding a sense of purpose and inner peace.
So are we talking about organized religion here?
It can be for some people, but he's actually talking about something broader than that. It could be meditation, spending time in nature, volunteering in your community, reflecting on your values, anything that helps you feel grounded and connected to something beyond your everyday experience.
I'm starting to see how all these different types of rest can work together. You know, if you're feeling physically and emotionally drained, it's hard to engage with the world in a meaningful way, let alone connect with something larger than yourself.
That's a great observation, and it really gets to the heart of the Minion's message. He argues that rest isn't just about feeling good, it's about creating a foundation for us to thrive in all areas of our lives.
This has been incredibly eye-opening already. 7 different types of rest, each addressing a unique need. Before we move on, I'm curious to hear from our listeners which of these types of rest resonates with you the most right now.
That's a great question. Hold on to that thought as we dive deeper into the benefits of these different types of rest and explore some practical strategies for incorporating them into your daily life in part 2. Welcome back. I'm really curious to hear which types of rest resonated most with you. It's one thing to understand the concepts, but putting them into practice can feel like a whole other challenge.
I think that's where a lot of us get stuck, you know? Knowing something intellectually is one thing, but actually changing your habits and behaviors to incorporate these ideas, that's where the real work comes in.
You're absolutely right. But Aminian emphasizes that incorporating these different types of rest doesn't require a complete life overhaul. It's about making small, intentional choices throughout your day.
Okay, that feels more manageable. So let's break it down, starting with physical rest. What are some practical tips beyond aiming for 8 hours of sleep, especially for someone like our listener who's always mentally engaged?
Remember, physical rest is all about recognizing when your body needs a break from any kind of exertion. If you've been at your desk for hours, even standing up to stretch or taking a short walk can make a world of difference.
I've definitely noticed that for myself. Sometimes a quick walk outside is all I need to clear my head and feel more energized.
Exactly. It's about tuning in to your body's signals and responding to what it needs. And don't underestimate the power of a short nap. Even a 15-20-minute power nap can do wonders for your focus and energy levels.
Now, emotional rest can feel a little harder to grasp. What are some tangible ways our listener can create space to process their emotions?
You know, it's really about finding what helps you feel grounded and centered. Journaling can be a great way to process emotions, and it doesn't have to be this elaborate daily ritual. Even just jotting down a few thoughts can help release some of that emotional tension.
For someone who's constantly learning and engaging with challenging topics, I can imagine journaling could be a really helpful tool for processing those complex emotions and preventing burnout.
Absolutely. And for some, it might be about setting boundaries with people or situations that are emotionally draining. It's about protecting your energy and prioritizing your well-being.
That's such an important reminder in today's always-on culture. We're often made to feel like we need to be constantly available and responsive, but prioritizing your own emotional needs is essential.
I completely agree. It's about choosing where you direct your energy and making sure your emotional reserves aren't constantly depleted.
Wow.
Okay, let's move on to mental rest. We talked about the importance of taking breaks, but what does that actually look like in practice?
I imagine for our listener who's probably spending a lot of time reading, researching, and absorbing information, mental rest might feel counterintuitive. Like, how can you step away from something you enjoy?
It's a valid point, but even engaging activities require mental breaks. Aminian suggests stepping away from whatever is dominating your mental energy, even if it's just for a few minutes. Stand up, walk around, or even just shift your focus to something completely different.
Sometimes when I'm working on a writing project and hit a wall, I find that doing a quick crossword puzzle or Sudoku actually helps me come back to the writing with fresh eyes.
That's a perfect example.
Oh.
It's about giving your mind a chance to disengage from the primary task and allowing your subconscious to work in the background. And he also emphasizes the power of mindfulness exercises. Even a few minutes of focused breathing can help calm the mental chatter.
I've been trying to incorporate more mindfulness into my routine, and I've definitely noticed a difference in my ability to focus and manage stress.
It can be truly transformative.
Okay.
Well, let's talk about sensory rest. This one feels particularly relevant for someone like our listener who's always plugged in and absorbing information.
It really does. It feels like we're constantly bombarded with stimulation, and I know for me it definitely takes a toll. Any tips for someone who's feeling overwhelmed by the digital noise?
The first step is awareness. Start noticing how you feel after spending time on your phone or computer. Do you feel drained, anxious, or scattered? Once you're aware of the impact, you can start setting small, achievable goals for reducing your screen time.
So maybe it's turning off notifications for certain apps or designating screen-free time each day.
Exactly. Or even something as simple as keeping your phone out of your bedroom at night. This can significantly improve sleep quality and allow your mind to truly disconnect before bed. And remember, sensory rest isn't just about minimizing digital input. It's about creating a calming environment for yourself. Dimming the lights, listening to soothing music, or simply enjoying the quiet.
I often find that spending time in nature is one of the best ways to reset my senses. There's something about being surrounded by trees and fresh air that just feels incredibly calming and restorative.
Nature is such a powerful antidote to the overstimulation of modern life. Okay, let's move on to social rest. This one might resonate with our listener in a different way, given their likely love of deep diving into information and ideas.
It's true. When you're passionate about learning, it can be easy to get caught up in the excitement of connecting with others who share those interests. But even positive social interaction can be draining if you don't balance it with solitude.
Exactly. It's about honoring your need to recharge, even if it means declining social invitations or carving out alone time, even when you're surrounded by people.
I used to feel guilty about saying no to social events, but I've realized that protecting my energy allows me to show up more fully for the connections that truly matter to me.
That's a wonderful realization. It's not about isolating yourself. It's about being mindful of your social energy and making choices that support your overall well-being.
Okay, now let's talk about creative rest. This one seems particularly relevant for our listener, who's clearly someone who enjoys exploring new ideas and expanding their knowledge.
Absolutely. Aminian argues that creative rest is a vital part of the learning process. It's about engaging your imagination and allowing yourself to play and experiment without pressure. For someone who's constantly absorbing information, creative pursuits can be a powerful way to process and integrate that knowledge in a new way.
So are we talking about activities like painting, drawing, writing, or even just brainstorming new ideas?
Exactly. It's about finding activities that spark your curiosity and allow you to express yourself freely. And the key here is to approach these activities with a sense of playfulness and exploration. There's no pressure to create a masterpiece or achieve a specific outcome.
It's about the process, not the product.
Precisely. It's about allowing yourself to be fully present in the moment and to tap into that innate human desire to create.
I love that. Okay, finally, let's delve into spiritual rest. This one can feel a bit more abstract, but I think it's incredibly important, especially in a world that often feels chaotic and uncertain.
I agree. And while it can be tied to religious practices for some, Aminian presents a broader perspective on spiritual rest. He describes it as connecting with something larger than yourself, finding a sense of meaning and purpose in your life.
So it's not necessarily about organized religion, it's about finding those practices that help you feel grounded and connected to something beyond your everyday experience.
Exactly. It could be meditation, spending time in nature, volunteering in your community, or even simply reflecting on your values and beliefs.
I've found that even something as simple as stargazing on a clear night can evoke a sense of awe and wonder that helps me connect with something larger than myself.
That's a beautiful example. It's about finding those moments that spark a sense of wonder and remind you of your place in the grand scheme of things.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here, 7 different types of rest and practical ways to incorporate them into our lives. But I think it's important to address some of the misconceptions that people often have about rest. What are some of the biggest myths you've encountered?
One of the most common misconceptions is that rest is passive. People often think of rest as simply lying down and doing nothing.
So it's not just about zoning out on the couch?
Not necessarily. Remember those creative activities we discussed? Painting, writing, playing music. These can be incredibly restorative forms of rest, even though they involve effort.
So it's about engaging in activities that replenish your energy rather than deplete it.
Exactly. And another misconception that rest is something we only do when we're already exhausted or burnt out.
You mean it's not just a remedy for a problem, it's a way to prevent the problem in the first place?
Exactly. Aminian emphasizes that rest should be an integral part of our daily routine, not just something we turn to when we're running on empty.
That makes so much sense. Are there any other common misconceptions about rest that we should address?
Well, another one I often hear is that rest is a luxury, something we only deserve after working hard.
I think a lot of us struggle with that guilt around taking time for ourselves. It's ingrained in our culture to prioritize productivity and achievement above all else.
It's a harmful mindset, but Aminian challenges that view, arguing that rest is not a luxury, it's a necessity. It's essential for our physical, emotional, and mental well-being. And when we start viewing rest as a fundamental human need, just like eating and sleeping, it changes everything.
That's such a powerful reframing. Rest is not something we earn or deserve. It's something we fundamentally need to thrive.
Absolutely. And when we give ourselves permission to prioritize rest, we open up possibilities for greater creativity, productivity, and overall fulfillment.
Okay, listener, we've explored the 7 types of rest, practical strategies for incorporating them into your daily life, and even debunked some of the most common misconceptions. But we're not quite done yet.
There's still more to uncover. In Part 3, we'll delve into the surprising benefits of these different types of rest and explore how prioritizing rest can positively impact your overall well-being and your ability to learn, grow, and thrive.
Welcome back, listener. We've spent this deep dive exploring all the types of rest and how to weave them into our lives. Now let's talk about why it all matters. What are the real, tangible benefits of making rest a priority?
That's what I find most exciting. When we give ourselves permission to rest in all these different ways, we unlock a whole new level of well-being.
All right, I'm ready for that upgrade. Let's start with physical rest. What's going on beneath the surface when our bodies are truly rested?
Well, research shows that getting enough physical rest strengthens our immune system, making us less susceptible to illness.
So we're not just talking about feeling more energized, we're talking about actually boosting our resilience.
Exactly. And when our bodies are well rested, our minds benefit as well. Studies show that adequate physical rest enhances cognitive function, leading to sharper focus and better decision-making.
I know I've experienced that firsthand. I'm definitely more productive after a good night's sleep.
And we can't forget the impact on mood. When we take care of our physical needs, we tend to feel more balanced and less irritable, which benefits everyone around us.
Okay, so physical rest has a ripple effect on our overall well-being. Now, what about emotional rest? How does that play into the bigger picture?
Emotional rest is crucial for building resilience. When we create space to process difficult emotions, we're better equipped to handle life's inevitable challenges. It's like building a strong foundation to weather any storm.
Some might argue that constantly seeking knowledge and challenging your perspectives is a form of emotional growth, even if it's uncomfortable. How does Aminian address that?
That's a great question. He'd likely agree that intellectual and emotional growth can be demanding the knowledge. That's precisely why incorporating emotional rest is so vital. It's not about avoiding challenges, it's about creating the capacity to engage with them constructively.
So it's not weakness to step back and process, it's actually a strength.
Precisely. And when we're not running on emotional fumes, our relationships benefit as well. We're more present, patient, and empathetic with the people we care about.
Makes sense. Now on to mental rest. Besides sharpening focus, what other benefits can we expect from giving our brains a break?
It might surprise you, but mental rest is a key ingredient for creativity. When we step away from a problem, our subconscious mind keeps working, often leading to those aha moments we're all seeking.
So that's why it's so helpful to step away when you feel stuck. Your brain is actually making connections in the background.
Exactly. And those moments of mental quiet also allow us to manage stress and anxiety more effectively. When our minds are rested, we're less reactive and better equipped to handle challenging situations.
Okay, all this talk about rest is making me want to schedule a break right now.
We can certainly do that after the show. But first, let's explore sensory rest. This one feels particularly relevant in our hyper-connected world.
It really does. What are some of the unexpected benefits of unplugging and tuning out the noise, especially for someone constantly absorbing information?
Well, for starters, Sensory rest does wonders for sleep quality. When we minimize screen time and artificial light before bed, our brains produce more melatonin, the hormone that helps regulate our sleep cycles.
That explains why I sleep so much better when I resist the urge to scroll before bed.
It's a game changer, isn't it? And beyond sleep, sensory rest sharpens our focus and concentration. When we're not bombarded with constant stimulation, our minds become calmer and more present, allowing us to dive deeper into the things that matter to us.
It's like creating a sanctuary for your mind. Now, how does social rest fit into the picture, especially for someone who loves learning and connecting with others?
Social rest allows us to build stronger, more authentic relationships. It's not about becoming antisocial. It's about being mindful of your social energy and making sure you're engaging in a way that feels nourishing, not draining.
I used to think being on all the time was the best way to connect with people, but now I realize that prioritizing my own needs actually allows me to show up more fully for the people who are truly important to me.
That's a great point. And social rest also boosts self-awareness. When we take time for solitude, we get to know ourselves better, which in turn allows us to connect with others more authentically.
So it's a win-win all around. Now on to creative rest. I imagine this type of rest is particularly beneficial for our listener who is always seeking new knowledge and exploring new ideas.
You're absolutely right. Aminian highlights the link between creative rest and stress reduction. When we immerse ourselves in creative pursuits, we often enter a state of flow where our worries fade away and we lose track of time.
It's almost like a form of active meditation.
Precisely. And through that process, we often discover new skills and tap into different aspects of ourselves. For someone who is constantly learning, creative rest can spark new connections and insights, leading to an even deeper understanding of the world.
I love that. It's not just about taking a break, it's about actively engaging in a way that fuels your passion for learning. Finally, let's talk about the benefits of spiritual rest. This one is particularly intriguing to me.
It's a powerful concept, isn't it? Spiritual rest can instill a sense of purpose and meaning, which are essential for overall happiness and fulfillment. When we feel connected to something greater than ourselves, our individual challenges feel less daunting.
It's like finding a source of strength and perspective beyond the everyday ups and downs.
Exactly. And that sense of connection often fosters feelings of gratitude and compassion, both of which have been linked to greater well-being.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation. Who knew there were so many different ways to rest and so many benefits to be gained from making it a priority?
It's remarkable how something as simple as rest can have such a profound impact on our lives. And the beauty of it is that these different types of rest often complement each other. When we prioritize one, it enhances our experience of the others.
It's like creating a positive feedback loop of well-being.
Exactly. And the more we incorporate these different forms of rest into our lives, the more balanced, energized, and fulfilled we feel.
So, listener, as we wrap up this deep dive into rest, we encourage you to reflect on what resonated with you. Which types of rest are calling out to you? What small step can you take today to invite more rest into your life?
Remember, rest is not a luxury. It's a necessity. It's an investment in your well-being, your relationships, and your ability to thrive in all areas of your life.
Until next time, we wish you restful and fulfilling days ahead.